Welcome back to Lizzy's Gist World, where we bring you trending conversations, real emotions, and deep reflections on the stories making waves around us. Today's gist is one that has left so many people confused, curious, and even a little bit emotional, because honestly, when you keep hearing certain things over and over again, you begin to wonder, how could this even be possible? Is it really true? Or is it just another story blown out of proportion by social media? Guys, let us talk about it, because this situation is not as simple as it looks on the surface. There are layers to it, there are emotions involved, there are different opinions flying around, and most importantly, there are questions that nobody seems to have clear answers to. You know, sometimes in life, people go through phases where they act in ways that later even surprise them. There are moments when someone sits down and reflects and begins to ask themselves, how did I get here? How did I make these choices? Why did I not see things clearly at that time? And honestly, that kind of realization can be very heavy, it can be tiring, and it can even be shocking. But one thing people always say is that no matter when a person realizes the truth, no matter how late it seems, that moment of realization is still powerful, that moment is still important, because that is the beginning of change, that is the moment when a new chapter starts, that is when the day truly breaks for that person. Now bringing it back to what has been happening, there have been so many talks, so many speculations, so many posts circulating online, and it is getting harder to separate what is real from what is just assumption, because everywhere you turn, there is a new version of the story, a new angle, a new interpretation. One of the major questions people have been asking is whether certain actions were done knowingly or not, whether someone was fully aware of everything that was happening, or if they were somehow influenced or even manipulated into acting a certain way, and that is where the whole conversation becomes very complicated. Because let us be honest, manipulation is something that can happen, it is real, people can be influenced, people can be pushed into decisions they might not have made on their own, especially when emotions are involved, especially when relationships are involved, but at the same time, it is also difficult for many people to accept that a grown adult could go so far without realizing what they were doing. And this is exactly where opinions begin to clash. Some people strongly believe that there is no way someone could go through all of that without being fully aware. They feel that at some point there must have been a conscious decision, there must have been understanding of the consequences, and therefore accountability should not be ignored. On the other hand, some people are saying that things are not always as straightforward as they seem. They believe that there are situations where someone can gradually lose control without even realizing it, especially when they are trying to please someone, or trying to maintain a certain relationship, or trying to avoid conflict. And this brings us to another part of the gist that has really sparked reactions, the issue of fans and supporters. Guys, if you have been following closely, you will notice that a lot of the tension has not just come from the main individuals involved, but also from the people around them, especially fans who take things very personally and sometimes go overboard in defending their favorite. There have been complaints that some supporters have been causing unnecessary drama, insulting others, creating conflicts, and doing things in the name of defending someone, and the big question is that person even aware of all these actions being carried out in their name? Because think about it, if someone truly values peace, if someone truly does not support negativity, then it would be expected that they would speak up and address their supporters, letting them know clearly that such behavior is not acceptable. And interestingly, there have been instances where someone actually came out publicly to say, "Do not cause trouble because of me, do not fight anyone because of me," and that kind of statement speaks volumes, because it sets boundaries, it shows awareness, and it promotes peace. So when people compare that to the current situation, they begin to wonder, why has there not been a similar response? Why has there not been a clear statement addressing the actions of supporters? And that is where doubts begin to grow. Some people interpret the silence as lack of awareness. they believe that maybe the person genuinely does not know what is happening, that maybe these actions are being carried out without their knowledge. But others see it differently. They feel that silence could also mean acceptance, or at least tolerance, because if something is happening repeatedly and nothing is being said about it, then it raises questions. And honestly, guys, this is where it becomes very tricky, because we are dealing with assumptions, we are dealing with interpretations, and without direct confirmation, it is hard to say which side is completely right. Now let us talk about the part that has really gotten people talking, the idea that someone was manipulated. This is a serious claim, and it is not something to be taken lightly, because it shifts the entire narrative, it changes how people see the situation, it moves the focus from blame to understanding. But at the same time, it also raises even more questions. Can a mature person really be manipulated to that extent? Can someone go so far in their actions without realizing what they are doing? Or is it a case of making choices in the moment and later regretting them? These are the questions that people are asking, and honestly there is no simple answer. Because yes, people can do things to please others, especially in close relationships, it happens all the time. Someone might ignore their own instincts just to make another person happy. Someone might go along with decisions they are not fully comfortable with just to avoid conflict. But there is also a limit, and that is what many people are pointing out. They feel that even in such situations, there should still be a level of self-awareness, a point where someone pauses and reflects. And when that does not seem to happen, it becomes difficult for people to fully accept the idea of manipulation. Still, it is important to remember that every situation is unique, every relationship is different, and what happens behind closed doors is not always visible to the public. So while people can share their opinions, it is also important to leave room for possibilities, because the truth might be more complex than what we see on the surface. Now, beyond all the debates and discussions, there is one thing that stands out, and that is the idea of growth and second chances. No matter what has happened, no matter how things have played out, there is always an opportunity for change, there is always a chance to reflect, to learn, and to do better. And this is something that many supporters are holding on to. They believe that regardless of the past, what matters most is what happens next. They want to see improvement, they want to see better decisions, they want to see a positive turnaround. Because at the end of the day, nobody is perfect, people make mistakes, people go through phases, people sometimes lose their way, but what truly matters is the willingness to find that way back. And that is why you see people still showing support, still expressing hope, still believing that things can get better. There is also the aspect of protecting what has been built over time. Because let us be honest, building something meaningful takes effort, it takes consistency, it takes dedication, and it would be painful to see all of that go to waste. So naturally, people are asking, should everything just be allowed to fall apart, or should there be an effort to rebuild, to restore, to come back stronger? And this is where emotions come in again. Because for some, it is about loyalty, it is about standing by someone no matter what. For others, it is about accountability, it is about expecting better and not ignoring mistakes. And both perspectives have their place. Now, another important part of this conversation is how situations like this are handled publicly. Because there is a difference between a peaceful separation and a situation where one person feels hurt or suppressed. A peaceful separation is quiet, it is respectful, it does not involve unnecessary drama, it allows both parties to move on without tension. But when things start to look one-sided, when it feels like one person is being affected more than the other, that is when people begin to react, that is when concerns are raised. And that is exactly what is happening here. People are trying to understand whether what they are seeing is a normal situation or something that needs to be addressed. They are trying to make sense of the actions, the silence, the reactions, and everything in between. And honestly, it is not easy. Because social media has a way of amplifying everything, it takes small details and turns them into big conversations, it creates narratives, it fuels debates, and sometimes it even distorts reality. So while it is good to stay informed, it is also important to be careful about jumping to conclusions. At the end of the day, the truth will always come out, whether sooner or later, and when it does, it will provide the clarity that everyone is looking for. Until then, all we can do is observe, reflect, and share our opinions respectfully. So guys, what do you think about this whole situation? Do you believe that someone can be manipulated to that extent? Do you think there is lack of awareness or silent approval? Do you feel that there is still room for change and improvement? Or do you think things have already gone too far? Let me know your honest thoughts in the comment section, because this is one of those conversations where different perspectives really matter. And as always, remember that behind every story are real people with real emotions, so let us keep the discussion respectful and thoughtful. Thank you for spending your time here on Lizzy's Gist World. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe for more engaging and thought-provoking content, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.